It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
That's caught! Touchdown! Stayed inside the boundary and gets in for 6.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Ritchie right to the rim, driving score! He would not be denied!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Sponsored by Any Hour Services, Electrical, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Kyle Ireland. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Cougar Sports Saturday, sponsored by Any Hour Services, Electric, Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Appreciate them being on board with Cougar Sports Saturday. So we were having some great discussion in the break. Wanted to bring it to the air. We were talking about the reseeding for LaVell Edwards Stadium beginning in 2026. Every year, fans, the season tickets will be reseated. So you can't just, it's not like years past where you're locked into your season ticket seat as long as you renew and pay the fees to get your tickets. They'll be reseated, and hopefully you can get your seat if you'd like. You just maybe, to ensure that, you probably need to donate a little bit more or continue to build up those priority points with the Cougar Club. But we were discussing how it's been pretty amazing through the first 2 home games. BYU is setting records for attendance. Week 1, largest crowd since 2009. That was against Portland State. Then week 2 against Stanford, largest crowd since 2007.
4th and 18.
That's against Utah. And it got us thinking, how are they getting this well above capacity? It's plus 100% capacity. What's your theory to it, Kyle?
I think that there's obviously momentum around this program that hasn't been seen in years. I wish that going off of this, like reseeding the stadium conversation, I think this kind of fuels in, like if they keep selling out like they have been, this will also like add some fuel to the fire of like maybe expanding the stadium, getting those corners filled in, adding maybe some standing room only sections. You see a lot of people on the way that they've added those like platforms on the mezzanine on the corners there. You see a lot of people watching the games from those platforms as well now, whereas before you were just like on the turns going up the steps onto the next level, and not really a good vantage point from those other than like on the 5-foot edge there. But I do think that the excitement around this program, if it continues and BYU can stack wins, the successes there, playoff appearances, those types of things, conference championships, like that will add more of a reason for BYU to think about expanding the stadium rather than reducing it like they have in recent years, because then you don't have to worry about reseeding the stadium, because then you're going to be able to have cheaper seats at certain spots where you could have families that maybe feel like these moves are actually going to price them out of being able to go to games. They can, even single games, I think the people are going to feel the pressure like, hey, I can't afford to go to the BYU-Utah game, for instance.
But I think you want to find that nice balance, though, where you want the tickets to still be a hot commodity. Right now, they're a hot commodity. West Virginia game already sold out. Utah game, obviously, sold out. And then TCU, I would assume, will probably be sold out. UCF, we'll see on that one. That one's always tricky because it's post-Thanksgiving. But, what do you think, Nate? What do you think's causing this incredible historic crowds? Because I'll admit, I've been kind of blown away that we're hearing these attendance numbers to the degree that largest since
Portland
2007.
State's breaking records? Well, like that shocks you?
it blows me away. Like, because I just always think in my mind that BYU gets sellouts, but we haven't seen this since the heyday of the Mountain West years with Bronco. What do you think, Nate?
I just think it's the Big 12. I think it's also part of it is basketball success, and I think people are looking at last year's success in football, thinking that they could take it to another level. Playing devil's advocate, I don't know like if the numbers are super accurate, because there are some other teams that kind of inflate their numbers in their stadiums to show sellouts and stuff. But I don't know. It's an interesting topic because there's been some huge games. I mean, the Texas game in 2013 and the Utah games in 2021, Arizona State 2021. Those were like some huge games. I don't totally understand why BYU is getting 3,000 people more at the games.
There's a lot of people in line for those Cougar tails now more than ever before. Well, and you can't see them.
Well, I think that's a good point too. And we were talking about this. I think that BYU football games have become an event where you want to get the Cougar tail. and that's part of what you do now.
And the Cougar Paw now. We tried that last
Yes.
week, Mitch. The Cougar Paw was on point.
I remember when Cougar Tails came out. I'm telling you, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm totally off base here. It really wasn't a thing for like the first 10 years. No one talked about the Cougar Tail. No one. Maybe it was just because it was pre-iPhone and pre-social media really kind of getting into its stride, but no one was buzzing about the Cougar Tail. I honestly don't even remember getting them. I remember getting more the Sprite, just like with the blue straw and some
Your non-caffeinated
just
soda.
mid hoagie. I think it was Hoagie Yogi back in the day.
Yeah, Hoagie.
But I don't really remember the Cougar Tail being a thing. But that's become part of it. Then you add in turbulence. Then you add in the fire knives, the entertainment. What's Cosmo going to do? If you're not a big football junkie, you still kind of like going to a BYU game because they got these cool lights. It's a spectacle. You want to see that fourth quarter. You want to stay to the end. How many broadcasters the last couple weeks, how many moments and references? I can't believe the crowd's still here. I think it's because they want to see that fourth quarter turbulence fire knife show. And then I wonder, too, how they're handling the Rock. And maybe we can ask around to kind of get some official word on this from BYU. But the Rock, because that went up in pricing. They sold those out. But also I think some students have said that I don't know if it's a lottery system, but how they're distributing the tickets to get into the stadium, are they just compacting those students as much as possible, being on benches? Because honestly, I'm sure students don't mind sitting on laps if they need to. Like, they're just there for have a good time. They're vibing. They're creating TikToks. They're having a great time. It's an electric atmosphere. It is awesome. And I just remember 20 years ago when there were pockets of Cougar fans trying to create groups that would say, "Hey guys, let's get a movement to get everyone to wear blue." That was the thing 20 years ago. And now, fast forward, it is an electric atmosphere at BYU games.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because thinking about all the marketing stuff that's been done, even when I was interning for Greg Rubel, they started the Cougar Canyon. And so
2019.
Or 2019, yeah. That was really cool because I was able to stand out there with Greg while he was doing his pregame show, and I was with, Riley Nelson at the time. And seeing the fans kind of get excited outside the stadium because it's always been talked about how BYU doesn't have a tailgating scene, and that kind of makes up for at least part of it. But it's definitely the whole experience of like wearing your royal blue shirt and getting your Cougar tail and seeing Cosmo do flips and seeing the band come out and watching the Cougar walk. Like, everything about the event, it's become a full day activity instead of just the game.
And then on top of that, they're good right now. And but I think those elements that you're talking about add to where no matter what, that's going to have some staying power. Even if there's a year where you go 6-6, you're still having a great day at a BYU football game because they have all these elements that are just so fun. Now, don't pull a 2023 Iowa State and have Cosmo do Singing in the Rain. If you do that, then you're like, this doesn't hit the same way. And turbulence.
Was that not so fitting, though, to have that be Cosmo's stunt during a blowout loss in October?
Oh, that was so brutal. And then you got the fire knives. And you're just like, yeah, this doesn't hit the same way. And BYU's in these all black uniforms, which mixed reviews on those.
Hey, I'm just glad the Cosmo is still with us after last Saturday.
Holy cow!
Doing the Rubik's Cube with the Houdini water tank. He had to come up for air because he couldn't do the Rubik's Cube in time. He lost the grip of it, and it was floating up, and he was trying to grab it and finish it off. He almost did it, but thank God that Cosmo is still with us still. Praise the heavens.
I was very concerned for Cosmo's well-being in that David Copperfield style stunt that he was doing with the Rubik's Cube. I mean, gosh, I've never been able to solve a Rubik's Cube, so my mind was just, I'm like, there's no way he's getting out of there. If he's got to solve this before getting out, it's insane. But it has been incredible atmospheres at BYU games, and there's only 4 home games left, which the home games, again, West Virginia, Utah, TCU, and UCF. But I think you brought it up earlier too, Nate, the basketball side. And I think another thing, that piece with basketball, but I also get the sense that Cougar fans feel like, okay, I have to pay more, but I'm willing to do that because I know that the team I'm cheering on is all in too. I think in years past, there was more reluctancy to spend premium dollar One, because BYU was outside the power conference, but two, there was this feeling of, is BYU all in? Is BYU willing to pay whatever it takes to get to the highest of highs in sports? Whereas now, you're talking about BYU basketball being one of the top rosters, financed rosters in the sport. And BYU football, nowhere near probably the top 10. I don't know if they're top 20 even. But you look at the future, they're getting Ryder Lions. That's not cheap. You're not getting Ryder without having a nice NIL package. So this program is all in to win, and I think that adds to where, you know what? They're all in. I want to be all in as a fan too. I'm going to support this and keep the machine going.
Yeah, one thing I have concerns about, just kind of switching gears a little bit, you mentioned the 4 home games left on the rest of the season, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the next 7 games are on the road for BYU football, and that's tough. And they're not just tough games. Like you travel 2 time zones to ECU, you play at Colorado, you're home to West Virginia, you go to Arizona, which is looking a lot tougher than it did if the game was played last year, home to Utah, and then at Iowa State, a bye, and then at Texas Tech. And like that's a brutal stretch. Just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on the next stretch and what BYU's record could be after maybe the next 6 games or so.
I think Mitch was the one that said earlier that he thinks that they could be 5-0 going into that Arizona game on the road, and then, you know, if you manage to pull that one out in Tucson, you've got Utah coming in at home. Like, you could have undefeated teams playing there in mid-October. That would be really impressive and a fun matchup. And then you obviously hit those 2 road games at Iowa State and Texas Tech. That stretch is just going to be so tough, and that's really going to be where this BYU team proves what they are. Is this a good team, or is this a mediocre team? Is this a team that's fighting for bowl eligibility in November, or is this a team that we're talking about that's, you know, fighting for double-digit wins like they were a season ago? That stretch right there is really going to be what proves where this team is at.
I think for me, it was, we talked about this in the summertime, Nate, was when the outside was saying that BYU has the easiest schedule in the sport. I always disagreed with them because they had 4 home games in league play. That alone doesn't make it the easiest. If you have 5 Big 12 home games and 4 road, okay, now you can be in that conversation to be in the easiest, and then you kind of drill it down deeper. But when you have 1 fewer home game than road, you're not the easiest schedule. And now how it's stacking up and just how you laid out, 5 out of 7, I didn't put it in those terms, but that is difficult. So this team is going to be tested. And so it's challenging. And then you're watching, you know, West Virginia, who might be the weakest out of these opponents in the 7-game stretch. They're up right now on Pitt at home, 7-0, and impressive for them. Like, that's just the Big 12, where what you learned last week doesn't necessarily apply to the following week, and they could be a completely different outlook. So it's going to be a tough stretch. But I love that, though, for BYU football. And I think for Cougar fans, circling it back to them and investing into tickets, that's what they've always wanted. Just the feeling of every single week, you don't know what's going to happen. And the chance to be among the best in college football. Look, BYU is always going to have a slight against them. No matter what league they're in, it feels like BYU always got to go prove it well above what's expected to earn respect. But I just think the grind, the week after week battles that BYU is going to experience in the Big 12 this year and the years to come, I think it's fun. And I think Cougar fans are really embracing this type of competition week after week, and it's just a fun dynamic. But this 7-game stretch is going to be a buzzsaw. It's going to be really challenging for the Cougs.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I'm interested to see going back to the seating at LaVell Edwards Stadium is, does that West Virginia game, does that Utah game break another record?
I think Utah game could.
Do we get that attendance announcement and we're like, oh my gosh, largest crowd?
The highest attended game was, I don't know if they'll ever be beat, the before there was the expansion, the renovation on the east sideline, I think it was 2003. Pre-2003, it was like 66,500. I think it was Notre Dame in 1993. And then before that, I think it was Miami, 1990, 66 plus. I don't know if you get to that level, but I think with the crowd that was last week against Stanford, that could be beat with the Utah game. I mean, Utah's going to sell out its allotment. Students, if they're saying you got to pack in more than ever before to get an extra 1,000 fans, to get that 12th man element, I think students would be willing to do whatever it takes to get into that game. So, I expect another record setter for that Utah game. West Virginia, maybe not, But I will say the West Virginia game, I was looking at just kind of some hotels to kind of get a gauge of maybe travel and things like that to see what people are doing, to kind of get a sense of maybe the visiting section. All the Marriott hotels are sold out. Now, that could be a combination, too, of people visiting the Valley to go to General Conference the following day to drive up to Salt Lake. So that could be a multitude of factors there. But hotels are pretty much gone in Provo for that West Virginia game. So I expect a great crowd for that one, too. It's going to be awesome. LaVell Edwards Stadium is quite the sight to see for BYU football games. Let's take our final timeout. On the other side, we'll put a bow on the show next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.